Maintaining a healthy gut is key for overall physical and mental well-being. Whether you're a health-conscious advocate, an individual navigating the complexities of living with GI issues, or a healthcare provider, you are in the right place. The Gut Health Podcast will empower you with the fascinating scientific connection between your brain, food, and the gut. Come join us. We welcome you. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Gut Health Podcast. I'm Kate Scarlatta, a GI dietitian.
And I'm Dr. Megan Reel, a GI psychologist. And today we are doing a fun dive into things that we are seeing online that either get us really excited or get us rolling our eyes, shaking our head, and giving that no.
Or maybe they're making us a little curious because, science is evolving. That being said, Dr. Reel, I'm a little afraid of what you've been scrolling lately.
Well, I think maybe you should be because we never know.
That's right. So we're talking gut health trends, the ones that are all over social media, as Dr. Reel mentioned, and some of these are grounded in real physiology and some are really quite a stretch. And so we really wanted to talk about it.
So we're going to give you like a trend by trend today with our hard takes on, is it a absolute hard no? Is it an I'm curious or a sign me up? I'm into this.
That's right. And a gentle reminder that viral does not mean valid.
That is right. It really never does. And so today we're going to get into it. Really excited to share this with everybody.
Exactly. So if you know me, you follow my Instagram feed, you know I'm a seed queen. I love seeds. So I was really kind of interested on this chia internal shower.
Tell me more. This is one where I'm like, I don't know. Let's hear it. Let's hear your perspective.
Yeah. So, basically this is mixing chia seeds, which are, rich in soluble fiber with water and lemon and calling it an internal shower, like a natural colon cleanse to relieve constipation. And certainly fiber is helpful for constipation. But also there's mention about detoxing the intestines.
Yeah, that's the word that gets me going,
So it's really a viral TikTok natural cleanse social media trend, and it feels simple and certainly food-based, which is great and inexpensive and, promises relief of constipation and bloating, which are two very common symptoms for many people, right? So there's some science here in the fact that yes, chia seeds are a great source of fiber. They're soluble fiber. When they're hydrated, they form this great gel. I love using chia seeds, for instance, to make like a homemade chia strawberry jam or something. That gel forming gives it a really nice consistency. There's no science to say this is a cleanse for your colon. And I think with this big sort of surge in interest in gut health, everyone's looking for detoxifying everything. We know that fiber supports regularity and stool form, but again, none of this detoxification effects. What do you think from a GI psychologist angle?
I think bloating, constipation are, as you said, really common symptoms. And I think also they can be normal, that we can have some bloat, we can have some distension, and we don't need to jump to a quick fix for that. If this is something you're struggling with, I would certainly, and this is, I guess, probably our disclaimer for many of these things, that if you're having symptoms and you haven't spoken to a medical professional about them, do that first, and if you get a proper diagnosis for something, then again, some of these trends may be beneficial from a lifestyle perspective, but we don't think that the majority of them are going to be a cure. And anything that promises a cure, we want to kind of have a little bit of a red flag that waves around that. But I just think that some of these trends can be putting you on a more hypervigilant kind of wavelength of paying very close attention to your body, looking at how the chia seeds are going to help you feel. So I think with the internal chia seed shower, I'm a hard no, though I'm open to, hey, slowly introducing chia seeds to your diet. That I'd be a yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I'm a hard no for focusing on one type of fiber in excessive amounts. For gut health, it's a great fiber for gut health, but there's lots of different types of fibers. And I think the science really shows you that different varieties of different plant fibers are really much better for gut health. I will say that chia seeds are rich in omega 3s and fiber, as we know, and they may help lower cholesterol and have antioxidants and polyphenols. So again, love my chia seeds, but I don't love my internal chia shower.
Another trend that we are seeing are the spa-based colonics and coffee enemas. And these get marketed for detoxification. Again, that detox word, bloating, gut resetting. And, I hear this both on social media or on different podcasts where people are going off to a wellness spa, maybe for weight loss. They're going to be doing these cleanses, they're going to be doing liquid diets for a week, and they're going to drop a bunch of weight. It just makes me so sad for these people
So
because
sad.
it's not sustainable. And quite honestly, I think most of the time they're pretty miserable while they're doing this. But my main kind of takeaway with this trend that I want people to be careful with is if they are incorporating colonics and coffee enemas, these can be really, really dangerous. And from a science based perspective, especially from a wellness spa perspective, you are putting yourself at some serious risk for bowel perforation, even the skill set of the person that is doing the colonic is not going to be a gastroenterologist in most cases. And so we just want to be really mindful around what recommendations we're following, what are our health goals, and again, probably talking with a medical professional before going and doing some of these wellness practices.
Absolutely. And it's concerning when they involve things that are dehydrating, right? So you
Yeah.
have an enema that could be risk of electrolyte imbalances. You mentioned the bowel perforation, which no thank you, don't want
Mm-mm.
that. There's also been notes of like infection that equipment isn't maybe not sanitized properly. So
Yeah.
and most of these organizations and spas really have no credentialed providers, which is really concerning. We won't get into it today, but what about all those IVs that are out there
Yeah.
too for vitamins, et cetera? It's a lot of a lot.
Yeah. So we're a hard no. If you're off to a spa day, stay away from, you can drink your coffee, but do not have anybody inserting any tubes into your butt for cleansing.
Hard no, absolutely. So, what do you think about some of these gut friendly morning routines that we're seeing online? Curated gut stacks, including things
The stack. Yeah. Yeah.
a
Let's get into the stack.
stack. Let's do lemon water and apple cider vinegar, coffee, magnesium probiotics, a number of supplements to really wake up your digestion. Again, they're really targeting people that may be experiencing some bloating and constipation. There's many people out there, and certainly all of us experience some bloating and constipation periodically. And it gives people this sense that they're doing something, they're in control, right? Structure, preventative. It's easy to take a little lemon water. Apple cider vinegar is very, very inexpensive. And we know that consuming anything in the mornings does stimulate that gastrocolic reflex. And that's a good thing because that stimulates peristalsis, gets the colon ready for elimination, which, having a good bowel movement in the morning is a good thing. However, I'm not really sure that having apple cider vinegar is necessarily waking up your digestion or that lemon water is really waking up your digestion. And I'm concerned with certain individuals who are taking a very acidic beverage, would we call it, your apple cider vinegar shot?
A shot. Yeah.
For some people can be really irritating to the esophagus. So I'm a little concerned with sort of the evidence around these as really being a tool to wake up your digestion. What wakes up digestion is eating. Even thinking about eating will stimulate your gastric colic reflex. And I think keeping up with normal meal times, regular meal times, not skipping, especially breakfast, where the gastric reflex is most active. So if you're constipation in particular, do not skip breakfast. But I'm not really seeing strong evidence for lemon water, apple cider vinegar, or probiotics as morning resets.
I agree. I think that if you're somebody that's doing this for a health benefit or to address a certain type of symptom, that anxiety about the symptom drives this desire to control something. If I have this routine in the morning, that's something I'm in control of. And there is something to be said for following habit and, feeling like you're doing something that's good for yourself in the morning that gives you a little bit of an endorphin boost. And so I think from, like you said, and if it's inexpensive, if it is not causing you harm, it's not going to be the worst thing for you to have a bit of a nice, gentle routine in the morning. What I do get concerned about is the people that are shelling out hundreds of dollars with the additional supplements that they're taking in the morning as part of these stacks.
Absolutely.
The majority of people do not need to be taking $100 vitamin stacks on a regular basis here. And again, I think you're doing that out of some of this misinformation, myths about why you're taking these things and what they're actually doing. So from a psychologist perspective, I might say, doing something gentle in the morning out of habit, great. Take some warm water and apple cider vinegar. That's great. But what about doing some breathing? What about a nice gentle muscle relaxation? Similarly to eating breakfast, when our feet hit the floor and we do some gentle stretching, that also helps stimulate the gastrocolic reflex. So I want to be just mindful that I think where this leans in terms of morning routine is, having some control, taking your time, easing your way into the day. And that is likely going to be more beneficial for your health than the ingestion of some stuff.
Exactly. And I'm thinking like apple cider vinegar shot sounds really not very tasty. I think it's also important to remember that your stomach is very acidic. The pH is like 1 to 2. The lower the number, the more acidic. And apple cider vinegar is like 2 to 3. You're just adding a little acid on top of something that's already pretty acidic. So I'm not sure where the benefit really, really falls there. But like you said, I think the routines, eating breakfast, waking up slowly, warm fluids can stimulate your gut motility. Coffee, certainly with the caffeine, can give it that extra kick. And for some people, that is a really great little boost for their gut if they're prone to constipation. So healthy routines in the morning, all about it. A little coffee, all about it. Listen to your body. If your gut burning in your esophagus after your apple cider vinegar shot, you may want to dial that back a little bit. But I think what they're promoting of waking up digestion, not sure that's totally on point, and there may be some risks. And I'm going to say I'm curious here, but truth's in the middle.
I will remain curious and be mindful there.
I love it. I love it. All right. So next up, let's talk about the fermented food train as daily medicine. So I think one of the things that I really want to talk about in this sort of discussion is that most fermented foods are not probiotic sources. I just want to get that out there before we get into this topic, because if you're looking at it as a source of probiotics, most fermented foods just don't meet that criteria. And the reason being is that probiotics have to had some study behind them. They're designated down to the strain level as showing health benefits. And many of the fermented foods that we get out there in the market are made from uncharacterized strains from the environment or on the cabbage in the environment when the sourdough is rising. So keep that in mind. When you say fermented foods are a source of probiotics, that's actually most often incorrect. So people love it because, it's natural. Fermented foods have been around forever. They're touted as safe, and they are. Most pathogenic bacteria and doesn't survive the acidic environment that occurs in a highly fermented food. And they're linked to this like wellness identity, like sipping on your kombucha while you're buzzing down on the beach. But The effect here is really variable. I will say that fermented foods are of interest to me because it's not just the microbes in the food that are fermenting, it's also what are they making. And in many cases, we're eating those metabolites they're making. And there's been more and more interesting data really looking at those metabolites as health promoting. So there's some truth here. I think it's important to note that some populations may not tolerate fermented foods or may not be indicated based on their medical condition. For instance, if you have some medications on board or a condition that makes you highly immunocompromised, fermented foods are very high in histamine. And so if people have histamine intolerance, they may not tolerate them. So again, interesting.
And we did a great episode. I might be biased, but I thought it was a great episode a year ago with Elisa Caffrey, where we talked about lots of myths and science associated with fermented foods. So if you're curious about this, I would suggest going back to that episode. It was great. And I think from even just a taste bud perspective with this one, my thing also is, yes, it's great. I think the science is emerging. And you can have a little fun with this, with introducing some of these flavors to your taste buds if this is not something that you have historically been eating with regularity. And so don't stress yourself out over, if you hate kombucha, then, that's okay. If you want to just kind of try to introduce it slowly to feed the microbiome, I think our evidence on how we're exactly incorporating that into the microbiome is still emerging. I'm curious about this.
I'm curious too.
Well, let's stay curious. All right, here's something else to be curious for, Kate. I've been seeing several of our colleagues actually on social media who are pulling out their cocktail shaker, and the thing that comes out of their mouth next, I find, oh, okay, so they're doing that because they are prepping for a colonoscopy. So they have the cocktail shaker out and they are getting creative making mocktails out of the approved clear liquids for colonoscopy prep. And so I've seen this as a recent viral trend. I think it's kind of hilarious, but also the reality is, and I had my first colonoscopy recently, prep is not fun.
It is not fun.
It is not fun. Yet I would do it over and over and over and over again to get the benefits of a colonoscopy. The prep, while it not be fun, it's better than the outcomes of cancer.
Absolutely.
So people are turning to this, I think, with some kind of fun, excitement, energy as they prep for their colonoscopy. I think it can reduce some of this anticipation, anxiety associated with getting a colonoscopy. It might improve some of the taste of some of these prep things. And yet also, we have to take this seriously. You have to do your colonoscopy prep correct. So if this is something that you feel like, hey, I'm going to be spending a day where I'm at home thinking about this, I can get the materials ahead of time and have a little bit of mocktail prep fun, go for it. But I do think that we have to really adhere to the strict guidelines of prepping well for a colonoscopy. So don't overly stress yourself if this is just more so something you can watch on social media and kind of have a, hey, you go do that. I'm going to stick with my Miralax prep.
Right. I think it's more, making those clear liquids a little more enjoyable. I get so sick of the same thing. And so, if there's something that's like someone mentioned, like a ramen packet, does that fit the clear liquid sort of definition? I'm not quite sure that it totally does. It depends what's in there. If there's herbs, spices, even things like Spindrift is a drink that I drink all the time, but there's fruit particles in there. It wouldn't classify as clear liquid. So, it's just a matter of sticking with, you want that colonoscopy prep to be a good prep. And so you don't have to do it again.
You do not want to do it again.
Not going to do it again. So just make sure you're following the rules. So I'm going to say I'm curious on this one.
I'm curious too, but I am here for it. I will continue to watch our colleagues, have at this one.
Absolutely.
What if the secret to feeling happier and healthier lies in your gut? It's true.
Your gut produces about 90% of your body's serotonin, the feel-good hormone. That means what you eat and how you manage stress directly impact not just your digestive health, but your mood too. For the 11% of people globally living with irritable bowel syndrome, this connection is life-changing. IBS can feel overwhelming, but there's hope. Introducing Mind Your Gut, the science-based whole-body guide to living well with IBS. Co-authored by GI experts Kate Scarlatta, a GI registered dietitian, and Dr. Megan Reel, a GI psychologist. This guide offers a holistic and evidence-based approach to reclaiming your life. With targeted mind-gut techniques, practical nutrition advice, and gut-soothing recipes, it's your complete toolbox for managing IBS and feeling your best. Don't let IBS control your life. Take charge of your gut health today with Mind Your Gut. Available now in hardcover and audiobook formats wherever books are sold. Okay, Kate, we talked about getting enough fiber, but there's also something called fiber maxing. I think this comes from this maxing trend that we are seeing all over mainstream platforms. There's health maxing, sleep maxing, gym maxing, looks maxing. And essentially it just means like maximizing one's whatever it is. And it is a bit concerning, I think, especially for some of our younger generations who are going to even like dangerous levels with these practices. I think about the idea of orthorexia, where, people are going to extremes with really healthy, clean eating that, again, is unnecessary and really can put a lot of pressure on somebody. But fiber maxing, what are your thoughts? Tell me about this trend.
I know I have a lot of thoughts here, and I agree with you. I'm concerned about like the whole notion, if some fiber is good, more is better. It's that whole like, let's get the most we possibly can. So it's definitely concerning. And in some instances, they're fiber maxing up to 50 grams per day. And to your point about disordered eating, if you're eating so much fiber, you really don't have much room for the other nutrients in your diet because it's filling you up so much. So I'm all about balance. You'll see it in every single book that I've ever written about the balanced plate, because nutrients need to be balanced, I think, to make your body feel balanced. And when it's so tilted towards fiber, it definitely can be a little bit concerning to me. So I like fiber. Anyone in gut health loves our fiber. We love fiber. The majority of people are not eating enough fiber. So 90-95% range, It is important that we eat our fiber. And I think eating fiber can be a positive nutritional approach. I love the idea of a variety of different plants for gut health. I like that it can be potentially good for the microbiome, although the data on the 30 plants per week is really weak and based on just one population study. So got a lot of press, but the literature is relatively weak. However, diets like Mediterranean have really shown some health benefits across all chronic disease states. And we know that's a very plant-based diet with lots of data. So I think I can say pretty safely that eating a lot of plants is a good way to go. However, I do think we want to be more flexible. We want to be more gradual with our fiber intake, particularly for those with sensitive guts, individuals with IBS, IBD. It's really go slow, go low with fiber and assess your tolerance. So
take your time.
Yeah, take your time. Variety over perfection here is the goal. And I'm just not really a fan of maxing anything, to be honest. I think we move away from real health goals in many ways when we overdo something.
I think for some people, when a certain number gets a lot of press, you feel
Hmm.
again that pressure, that anxiety of like, oh, I only got 20 this week and, I was supposed to get 30. So I'm not doing well enough. When really I could eat broccoli every single day and feel pretty good. Hey, I got a green vegetable in today. So I'm going to call that good. I would rather
Exactly.
have that perspective as opposed to I missed out on 29 other plants and vegetables. Now, granted, again, I think taking a gentle approach to look at your plate and say, like, okay, there's some green on this plate. Is there anything else I could add? Is there another color I could add? Oh, look, there's some tomatoes over on my counter. Let me throw those on the plate. That's more of my kind of lifestyle stage
Totally.
where it's got to
Totally.
be easy. It's got to be accessible. Remember, people, too, frozen is okay. You
Right.
can go into the freezer and grab some frozen vegetables and call it good. So I
Yeah.
remain curious about these maxing trends. I want to be very cautious too. Sign me up for fiber variety, but
Yeah.
just be gentle with yourself here.
I'm going to say I'm curious too. And my little sort of add to that is variety is important, but if you become hypervigilant, counting every gram of fiber, it's going to backfire on you. And too much fiber too quickly is probably not going to feel too good in your gut. So go slow and low, but I'm curious.
There we go. All right, another trend, gut healing protocols. Kate, in our book, we talk a lot about being mindful of snake oil, and we encourage people to be cautious of any protocol, cleanse, or cure that promises to completely heal your gut or eliminate every symptom. And a lot of these protocols start with eliminating very long lists of food like gluten entirely, dairy, sugar, seed oils, nightshades. We've seen influencers touting the Candida cleanse. And sometimes these recommendations are based on direct to consumer microbiome testing. Now, we've talked with leading microbiome researchers on this podcast because we're curious. And the reality is, at this point now, most gastroenterologists and microbiome researchers do not make blanket recommendations for commercial microbiome tests to diagnose GI conditions or even to guide treatment because the science simply isn't there yet. They can generate pages and pages of results, but they don't provide information that's clinically actionable. And another thing that sometimes we see is that people are being told by their microbiome testing that they have parasites. And that is understandably very alarming. But it's important to know that a microbiome test is generally not a parasite test. These are commercial tests designed to characterize the microbes in your gut, and they're not intended to diagnose parasitic infections. So if someone has symptoms or risk factors that raise concern for a parasite, your physician is going to use dedicated medical testing and consider the entire clinical picture. They're going to ask questions about any recent international travel, or have you been drinking untreated water, certain foods, or environmental exposures. Also about the symptoms that are driving you to their office that, potentially put you at risk for a parasitic infection. My consideration here is really what happens next. People are often given a diagnosis or at least the suggestion of one that can happen based on these commercial reports. And it can send you down this path of anxiety and highly restrictive diets and cleanses, which may not be necessary. So we really want you working with your clinicians to interpret your symptoms and proper testing in the context of you as a whole person, not just a commercial report.
Yeah. And I would say, just as a reminder, like there are parasites that people do get if you live in a rural area where there's a lot of deer roaming and you have well water and it hasn't been tested. Giardia is something that is common in where I am in Maine and some of the northern territories. So I think that it's important to talk about your travel and your well water and your, travel out in a different country and all of that if you're concerned about it. And Dr. Real mentioned there are actual parasite tests that your doctor can do. I'm very concerned about the low candida or low carbohydrate, no sugar diets that are the result of these tests that show that someone has a fungus in their stool, and fungi live in our stool. It's not uncommon, and putting people on these very highly restrictive diets. In fact, I had a client recently who had lost a significant amount of weight because of a very highly restricted diet due to some random fungus in her stool test. So yeah, I'm a little worried about some of these trends leading people down highly restrictive diets and perhaps antifungal agents and other things as well.
Yeah. And another suggestion that we give our patients is, if you've been trying a certain treatment for a period of time, sometimes a month, sometimes if it's certainly been 6 months and you've been taking certain things and you have not received any improvement or benefit or even just mild improvement, then that's probably not the right treatment for you. You probably need to be pivoting, maybe talking with a new clinician. And I see this most often in the people that have had this extensive kind of microbiome testing. They are following this protocol. So just be mindful of this. Be mindful that the science has not caught up with what those kind of direct to consumer tests are showing us. And I think it just provokes more anxiety than it offers benefit at this particular time of research. So I'm a hard no. Hard no.
I'm a hard no. Hard no. Yes.
Hard no. Save your money.
Save your money, save your anxiety, save your hypervigilance on these crazy diets that are recommended. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about is what I've been seeing on my Instagram feed, and that is these transdermal patches for lactose intolerances. So this is a skin patch that's marketed to people that have lactose intolerance, and they put a patch on their skin so they can eat dairy as they desire. And, it's convenient. There's no pills. They don't have to down a bunch of pills before they have their ice cream. It's sort of this new innovation. The patches are kind of cute. It's effortless, right? Put a patch on and go about your day. But I find it really interesting because if you know the physiology of lactose intolerance, which is malabsorption of lactose in your intestine that requires an enzyme called lactase in your gut to break down the lactose that's in many dairy-rich foods in your intestine, so then it can then go into the bloodstream, digested into its digestible components, and you don't have it not being digested and following into your colon, dragging water and causing diarrhea. So I don't understand how a transdermal patch that goes right into your bloodstream is going to help with that when lactose itself needs to be broken down and is found in the intestine. I don't get it.
People get to report what they want to report.
That's right.
Like, I'm using this patch. There's going to be bias. There's going to be some placebo effect.
Absolutely.
It's going to probably be some people that don't have actual lactose intolerance. It's a spectrum, right? Like sometimes it's really bad dependent on dose. So yeah, this is one of those things, especially from a trend perspective, where you get people that are influencing, right?
Yes.
Like that's the other thing here, that it worked for me and I happen to have a following of 50,000 people. And so if out of those, we know that a lot of people have GI problems, they're looking for solutions. This is one of those snake oil things where people that don't have the right credentials to be making these suggestions widely are probably putting some people at risk. And or maybe it's a financial risk of just you're spending your money doing this.
And these are companies, right, that are going, hey, how many people are lactose intolerant out there? Quite a bit.
Quite a few.
Yeah. So this is a great way to make some money. So no science to support this. The only evidence-based options remain those oral lactase supplements, using lactose-free products, and, following a modified lactose-containing diet. So patches lack validation.
Hard no.
Hard no. If it doesn't reach the gut, it can't treat the gut, right?
That's right. That's right. All right. One final trend that we're going to cover, and then we're going to dive into a quick speed round here. But this last one that I see, again, some influencers where they do these beautiful, morning rituals or whenever they want to do this, abdominal castor oil packs. And they're kind of touted as topically with some heat. Again, that word, detox the gut, reduce bloating, improve your digestion. And I think what's interesting here is that oral castor oil actually is a laxative, but it's not used as often because of the side effects that can be bloating, vomiting, abdominal cramping, some dizziness. So it doesn't tend to be a go-to strategy from an oral ingestion remedy perspective.
Nope.
And so it is a real drug if you drink it, but activating, and it kind of works on the specific receptors inside your intestinal wall. But again, putting it on the outside of your belly is, I think of it kind of like you're taping an aspirin to your forehead for a headache.
Yeah.
You might get some relaxation out of the ritual of creating a nice environment to do this. And sometimes putting something warm on your belly feels good, but your gut is not improving because of the oil doing anything. So no clinical evidence to support these topical castor oil packs. I would focus your attention again on using your time wisely. Your time is precious.
Yeah.
So don't stress yourself out trying to do a detox trend. Instead, spend your time, doing some mindfulness work, being present. If you love, taking a bath, then try to carve out 15 minutes to give yourself a nice bath or a warm shower. Put some essential oils in the shower with you. If you love a face mask situation, do that. Self-care is amazing. It's great for us and it helps reduce stress. So stick with, finding what really relaxes you. Don't worry about detoxing yourself.
Absolutely. And I really do think it's that I think of heating pads, warm baths are really therapeutic for people with sensitive guts. They're not detoxifying the gut, but they're relaxing the gut. And that gut-brain connection, Dr. Rial.
It's real.
If you relax, it's real. And so I think anything that's going to relax you is going to have some benefit. And if that castor oil pack is warm, certainly going to make that gut relax maybe a little bit, but I'm not sure it's the castor oil itself. So I'm a hard no.
Hard no. All right. We've given our take on the trends. And this episode, you get to get a speed round with the both of us.
That's right.
I'm going to start with you, Kate.
All right.
And we will run through these. What is your favorite colonoscopy prep survival strategy?
I love like slushy things like an ice or a popsicle. So making that out of Gatorade, like a clear, suitable liquid Gatorade flavor, rather than just constantly drinking. It's just nice to kind of take it a little bit slower. So that's one of my faves.
I like Jell-O, and so I just had at it with the Jell-O. You either like it or you don't. And so thank goodness I'm a Jell-O girl. It reminds me of my childhood. And so I just ate a ton of, I think it was pineapple. That was delicious to me after not having any food. So I stuck with Jell-O.
That's a good one. I didn't even know they had pineapple Jell-O. I'm not really a Jell-O person, but maybe I'll look that up on my next colonoscopy prep. So let me ask you, what's your easy go-to dinner when you don't have anything planned?
So I do chicken breast, 350 degrees in the oven for 30 minutes, and I throw in veggies with it, whatever veggies I have. If I've got little cherry tomatoes around, broccoli, mushrooms, whatever, onion. Sometimes it's just, onion and one vegetable. the real family has been doing sheet pan dinners this summer, and it is just such an easy go-to. So I always will have frozen chicken breast, around, and we just add to it whatever I have.
I love that. And I'll say, so there's two versions for me, right? So I have the mom version years ago when I was raising my family, and that would be a crock pot meal all the time. My kids used to snack on it at 3 after school sometimes, and then have it again for dinner. But now that I have no children in the house, my husband and I, if we're really not that hungry, we will get a very large Greek yogurt parfait and just layer it with granola and nuts and seeds and fruits. And I kind of hit on all cylinders for all the things: protein, produce, healthy fats, etc. So that can be a go-to sometimes on a just low-key evening.
Okay. And so what's your favorite fiber source?
I'm a seed queen, as I mentioned. I really love them. I add them to salads and pasta dishes and over yogurt and oatmeal. And I really am in a committed relationship with pumpkin seeds. I have them all the time. They're a great source of magnesium. So if you're looking to up your magnesium, pumpkin seeds can be your friend.
Okay. Well, I'm still I try to get some fruits and just regular fruits and veggies. That's any fiber I can get in. My recent go-to is frozen fruits that I just pour some on some Greek yogurt with some honey. And I know that I'm getting both protein and some fiber there.
I love that. So what about you? What is your summer habit that brings you happiness?
So a family walk in the evening, pushing bedtime, I'm in the busy stage of life. So my kids can't understand that they're on summer break and mommy still has to go to work. Right. So I still am getting home at 5:00, sometimes later. And so then we eat dinner and we're just, the habit of let's go for a nice long walk. It's still sunny. It's still warm. We're pushing bedtime a little bit, but that's okay. It's like a summer treat.
I love that. So I'm by the beach in the summer up here in Maine. And so walking the beach is really my favorite summer habit, with or without the dog. And then if I have a little extra time, I like to sit on the jetty and just listen to the water kind of coming in, hitting the rocks, and watching the birds. And that's a very calm Zen time for me.
You go. I'm so proud of you.
I'm working on it, Dr. Real. I'm working on it.
Based indulgence there. I love that for you. And man, anytime I can go and visit you and join you on that jetty.
You're welcome anytime.
I'm welcome anytime. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Final one. Simple indulgence that sparks joy.
Yeah. So for me, I really love a special chai tea latte, and I froth my milk. I have a little frother. I usually do a mix of regular lactose-free milk and then oat milk or almond milk. I like that little blend. And then I put a little maple sugar, which is very common up here in Maine, and a little cinnamon on top. And I just savor that so much, all times, all year round. How about you?
Yeah, it has to do with caffeine. So I give myself the indulgence of stopping by a local coffee shop most mornings. And, I know the baristas. We have a little friendly banter. Shout out to Dozer Coffee in Ann Arbor, Michigan. That's probably the one I frequent the most. And, it's a really good cup of coffee. I don't make it at home very often anymore. And, it's my go-to. The financial advisors have come to the conclusion that your morning coffee is not going to be the reason you can't retire. So I'm going with, I spend a little bit of money in the morning on my coffee.
Yeah, I totally, especially being a young, having the young kids at home, I can see that having that coffee by yourself on the way to work. I mean, I definitely did that. And now again, I'm on the other side of it. So I have a little nook here in Maine, and I just have my little chai, and it's very quiet and peaceful. So less money spent on my coffee and teas out, but nonetheless,
there will come a time.
There will come a time. Enjoy it while you're there.
That's right. That's right. Well, we hope that you've enjoyed our take on the trends. And as always, we appreciate all of you for listening and sharing with both your friends and colleagues and patients. And we will see you next month on the Gut Health Podcast.
Yes, we will. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for joining us as we grow this gut health community. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a comment. You can also follow us on social media at The Gut Health Podcast, where we'd love for you to share your thoughts, questions, and experiences. Thanks for tuning in, friends. Thank you for joining us as we grow this gut health community. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a comment. You can follow us on social media at The Gut Health Podcast, where we'd love for you to share your thoughts, questions, and experiences. Thanks for tuning in, friends.